I've always been a crier ever since I was a child. I've cried very easily. People who know me will tell you that I cry when I'm happy, when I'm sad, when I'm frustrated, when I'm angry. I cry in all different kinds of situations, and they don't even have to involve real people. I remember way back in the theater when The Lion King, the animated version, was playing, and Mufasa died, and I bawled and bawled and bawled. And that was an animated character. It wasn't even a real character. But I cry very easily, and it's something that's been a struggle through a lot of my life because I often feel embarrassed when I cry in front of other people. I really want to get the idea out in this video that crying is a strength, crying is a healthy, natural way to express your emotions, and crying has many benefits. I've cried in front of coworkers, friends, family members, bosses, all kinds of situations. I've thought of making this video for a while because I'm sure I'm not the only one who cries pretty easily, but something happened recently at work that really gave me the push to make this video. I made a mistake at work. It wasn't anything astronomical or that was going to be difficult to fix. I had to call someone above me though to authorize a change to fix the mistake, and that's when things went a little sideways. I was embarrassed that I had made a mistake, and I started crying, and then I was embarrassed because I was crying, and so I cried more, and then I was apologizing for crying. Thankfully, the person I was on the phone with was understanding. They told me the error wasn't going to be difficult to fix, not to worry about it. But it's what happened afterwards that really gave me the incentive to put this video out there. My direct boss found out, he came into the office and saw me crying, and he told me that I shouldn't be showing emotions or crying at work. His intentions were good. He didn't mean to be hurtful in any way, and I understand why he said what he said, but the message that was sent was obviously that crying portrays weakness and that people might think I'm weak if they saw me crying. The common view in most of the world is that crying is weakness, especially if you're a man, but for women as well. My husband cries pretty easily at sad movies, especially if they involve animals, and that's typically seen as pretty acceptable. But in general, men are often socialized to portray this idea of strength that doesn't involve tears in any way. From very early on, they're often taught to hide their emotions and not to cry. I remember when my younger brother was little and he was crying, and I was told to ignore him, that he needed to toughen up. Thankfully, it wasn't by my parents, it was by an extended family member, so it wasn't a regular occurrence. But from very early on, men are told not to cry, not to be little babies. They're often taught to channel their emotions into what's considered stronger emotions like anger or determination, or sometimes just to push them down or push them aside. With women, it's often seen as more acceptable to cry, but we're often portrayed as too emotional or too sensitive, or even worse, hysterical. When I was a little girl, as I shared, I cried pretty easily and I was allowed to cry, but the comment was often made, "Why are you crying about that?" Or "You don't need to be crying about that." Even as a little girl, I felt like there was something wrong with crying, or that crying was a sign of weakness. There was someone I used to work with who said she angry cried whenever she would cry. And I'm sure sometimes her tears were from anger. Sometimes she did angry cry. But it felt like even in that situation, she had to justify her tears by saying that they were from anger, which is typically seen as a stronger emotion than something like maybe frustration or being overwhelmed. Crying is often seen as a lack of control or resilience. Even in the example I gave earlier, when one of my bosses told me that I shouldn't cry and that I should hide my emotions, it was coming from a good place, but it's coming from that idea that if I cried in front of certain people, they might see that as a lack of leadership, or that I might not be able to be strong or be in control or command of certain situations. Often in high pressure situations like school or work or sports, It's viewed as a distraction if you are crying, and it's seen as an inability to lead or control the situation. Toughness in society is often portrayed as not showing your imperfections, not showing vulnerability, but the idea that not showing vulnerability will protect you from hurt feelings or negative things from happening is very misguided. Emotions are a natural part of life. Crying is a natural part of showing those emotions, processing those emotions, releasing those emotions, and there wouldn't be the tears and there wouldn't be the crying if there wasn't a reason for it. The truth is that crying is one of many healthy ways that you can release emotions, work through emotions, and bring your body back into equilibrium. It's something that we do not only when we're sad or upset or angry, but it's something too that we do when we're happy or we're excited about something. It's often seen as okay to cry if it's around a positive emotion, but really crying in all different kinds of situations is a healthy way to release emotions, process things, and to bring your body back into that balance that it needs to be in to be healthy. Emotional expression, including crying, is a part of being mentally healthy. People have all different ways of processing emotions, and one is not stronger than the other. Crying is not a weaker way to process or to show your emotions. On a most basic level, crying is a form of stress relief. If you cry, your tears are going to contain cortisol, and releasing that is going to help bring your stress levels down. It also triggers the release of oxytocin and feel-good hormones that are going to bring you relief and help you feel more relaxed and at ease in a situation. If you are in pain, it releases natural pain relievers. So even if it's physical pain and not just emotional pain, crying is going to be beneficial. Crying is a way to soothe your mind and your body. Sometimes when you first start crying, you might feel more worked up or more agitated, but by the time you finish a good cry session, you're often going to feel more relaxed and more at ease in the situation, especially sometimes if you had someone there to support you during the situation. But even if you cry alone, crying can be very self-soothing. A risk with not crying or not showing your emotions is emotional suppression that can lead to consequences short-term and long-term. In the short term, it can lead to things like headaches or stomach aches. In the long term, it can lead to burnout and anxiety and depression. Crying is a way for us to release pent-up emotions and for the mind and body to work through difficult situations. It's a way for us to express in a healthy way outwardly what we're experiencing inwardly. If we don't work through our emotions and we hold them inside, then that ends up holding us back. If we show our emotions, it's a sign of emotional intelligence and resilience and strength. In situations in the past when I've cried, I might have apologized at the time or been embarrassed at the time, but afterwards I realized that it was a healthy way to release my emotions, but also it helped me reflect on the situation. So crying is sometimes a way to release emotions at the time in a healthy way, but it's also a way to work through emotions and reflect on situations after the fact and help you grow for the future. You might have a difficult situation with a family member or a friend that needs to be addressed, and you're afraid of addressing it because you might cry or it might bring up emotions. But if you address that situation, then you can work through it and work past it. There's a saying that the only way past something is through it, and a lot of the time that part is really difficult. I'm someone who has a very difficult time with setting boundaries, and I do not like confrontation. Sometimes even when I'm thinking about a situation when I'm going to have to set a boundary or there might be a difficult conversation, I'll start crying even just thinking about the situation. I'll have anxiety because I'm worried that if I cry in that discussion, that the other person is going to view me as weak or not take me seriously. And sometimes when we're afraid of crying or other people judging us for crying, then that can lead us to avoid situations that we really do need to address. We really need to change the idea that crying is a weakness and crying shows that you can't handle your emotions. Crying really shows that you're much more in control of your emotions than a lot of people think, because you're able to address them and accept them for what they are. One of the biggest benefits of crying is that it can bring connection and support. I recently had a situation at work where someone was treated really poorly by someone else, and I could tell she was upset. She went to the back, and I gave her a few moments, and then I went back to check on her, and she was crying, and she was apologizing to me for crying, and I told her that in that situation, it was perfectly normal to have that emotion, and it was definitely okay to cry, that I was a crier too, that I cry very easily, and that it's a natural and healthy way to release emotions. So I was able to let her know that not only was it okay to cry, but I was also there to support her through that difficult situation. Whereas if she tried to hide that emotion, then she was just going to internalize that, bring that home with her. Maybe she would have still viewed something in that situation as something she did wrong, when really she didn't do anything wrong at all. Babies often cry because they're in physical distress, but a lot of the time with adults, it's because of emotional distress. We're reaching out for that connection. We're reaching out for that support. Babies and adults have this mirroring effect that we often mirror other people's emotions. And so if we cry or we show vulnerability in front of other people, then they're more likely to understand that we need help and to support us. When we cry or show emotions or vulnerability in front of other people, it's honesty, it's not weakness, and it gives us an opportunity to support each other and connect with each other and understand each other. There are times when I've cried and someone was able to give me a different perspective on a situation. They weren't trying to subdue my emotions, but they were just trying to show me that maybe my anxiety or my perfectionism was blowing a situation out of proportion, and it helped bring me back to equilibrium because they were able to give me a different perspective on the situation. Sometimes we need that support from someone else, whether it's a hug or a different perspective or some kind of way to just help our body come back to balance. And crying helps us connect and helps them to see our distress. How are they supposed to know that we're going through anything or we need help with anything if we're just going to hide it? In our bodies, we have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. A lot of people are probably aware of the sympathetic nervous system being attached with the fight, flight, freeze type of response to things. But if you look at that word, sympathetic, there's sympathy in there. And fight, flight, freeze, whatever it is, however you're going to deal with a situation, that's your body's way of trying to handle that stress. And if you stay stuck in that moment, then you're not going to be able to move forward. If you have that sympathetic response and you cry and someone's able to have sympathy and connect with you, and you're able to have sympathy and empathy for yourself and to help yourself to realize that those emotions are normal and your body's just trying to bring yourself back to balance, then you can allow yourself to express those emotions and allow other people to help you by expressing those emotions in front of them and not being embarrassed about them. Crying can give you resiliency and the ability to handle difficult emotions. Crying is often very short-lived, but if you suppress those emotions, you can carry those with you long term. It's like having this huge backpack full of all this junk and garbage that you're not addressing or looking at. And if you cry and you work through those emotions and you process all that junk and unpack that backpack, then it helps you to move forward with a lighter load. It can help you with boundaries. It can help you assess a situation and look at things differently, and it can help you with your long-term growth. Letting those emotions out can keep you from remaining stuck. It can show your vulnerability. It can help you connect with others and connect with yourself if you're not shutting out certain parts of yourself or certain emotions that you feel are weak or that you shouldn't express. So what's my advice? Cry more. Whether you're someone who typically doesn't show your emotions very often or someone like me who already cries pretty easily and pretty often, we can all stand to shed a few more tears I hope you share this video. I really want to get this message out there that crying isn't weakness, it's being human. There are all different kinds of ways we can express our emotions, and one way isn't any stronger or weaker than another way. Crying is one way that we can show our vulnerability and our strength by processing our emotions. As I shared throughout this video, there are many benefits and it'll keep us healthier in the long run. I'd love to hear your feedback. Are you a crier? Do you apologize for crying? Maybe your crying is a gift that you have to work through your emotions and also connect and empathize with other people. Are you someone who typically doesn't share your emotions? What did you think about this video? Are you more likely to view showing your emotions or other people who cry in a different way? I'd love to hear your comments below, and I hope to see you in the next video.